Assalamu alaikum. This is Sadia Jalali with Muslim Bliss. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about some cognitive distortions. Basically, when I'm sometimes dealing with couples, if I'm talking to the individual, I'll kind of go through and try to understand their thought processes and the way that they think. And there are some real distorted ways of thinking that can really affect every message you get from anyone and anywhere. It could be work related or even personal, like in your marriage. But everything kind of takes a bit of a filter almost. And so I just wanted to point out some of these cognitive distortions to see if it's something that you may be dealing with, and then to try to see how you can work through them. Once you have to at least identify them, right? So one is, do you catastrophize everything? So basically, does every single thing take on this the end of the world kind of moment, right? Oh, well, if this happens, this, like it goes on, and you move to this horrible state before anything has really even happened, right? You kind of go to worst case scenario all the time. So that's being, catastrophic in your thinking. Fortune telling. Do you also kind of feel like, oh, when one person does something, it's like, oh, well, this is definitely what's going to happen next. I mean, this is always what happens next, so this is what's going to happen next. Well, you don't really know that. You're kind of trying to tell a future that hasn't happened yet. And yes, it's fine to, work off of previous history and whatnot, but sometimes when you do that, you don't even allow for any positive outcomes or any positive difference in the way some situation is handled. And just the idea of mind reading, that's another thing that we tend to do, especially in couples. You assume that you know what the other person is thinking, and then you make lots of assumptions, decisions even based on what you thought the other person was thinking, when that's not even been clear yet. So definitely mind reading is not a good thing in marriage. And it's funny because sometimes we want the other person to mind read, but what many experts have realized is that's not helpful, and it's not healthy. You're better off just being very clear with your communication as opposed to expect somebody to mind read. The other one is negative filtering. This is a big problem when it comes to cognitive distortions. Basically, it's that everything that happens, you put sort of like, it's like having a negative filtered sunglasses on, right? And you're looking at the world with these shades on all the time. That anything that happens, there's a negative filter. So it's basically like, this person might have done, even if someone does something nice for you, you'll try to assign some sort of like alternate agenda or ulterior motive to what they were doing. So that's kind of like having a negative spin and negatively filtering everything that goes on. And that can have really damaging effects on you. It can make you more depressed. It can increase your anxiety. It does not make you feel very good. And so, the idea of your thoughts and your feelings affecting your behavior, I mean, this is kind of the cycle that we work through. And the other one, or another one, is all or nothing thinking. This is something I see people do a lot. They operate out of extremes. They feel like, oh, well, I don't want to cut someone off. Well, you don't have to cut them off, like, is there a way to engage with the person, if they're really worried about setting boundaries with somebody? They have a hard time setting boundaries. So their idea is that I have to be all in and enmeshed and all messed up with this person and all about them, or I have to cut them off, right? So this is the idea of the all or nothing thinking, and that's not very healthy either. Labeling someone is not helpful. Calling somebody something doesn't actually kind of, it closes your mind to allow for any variations or any other alternatives and possibilities. And just kind of overgeneralizing, this happened to this person. Oh, look, this is how it's going to be for me. You can't really do that. And these types of thinking lead us to behave in certain ways. That's kind of the idea of things being cognitive and behavioral, right? The idea that our thoughts, our feelings, lead to how our behavior is, and then it's kind of a cyclical thing. They all kind of feed into each other. So this was just a quick video to talk and explain what some cognitive distortions are, and maybe you can examine and evaluate if you do these, and if so, and it's starting to impact your life in a significant way, in a way of, messing up your relationships or in like a functional way, please seek help for it. These are things that we do in therapy, and we can work on and find ways to break out of this type of thinking for you. So inshallah, just a quick note to really examine your thoughts and re-examine them. And inshallah, till next time. Assalamu alaikum.